Shalom, and welcome to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. This is a recording from our Shavuot all-night learning sessions with Rabbi Sharon Brous.
This is a session whose title and description were put together long before I had any idea what I was talking about. And so, also source sheets. So now I know what I'm going to talk about, but we're going to work within the framework that was established before we knew those things. I just got off a plane from Kyoto. So I first of all, you might notice in my energy at some point, not yet clearly, but maybe at some point, but I will share more in the days ahead, but it was really an extraordinary gathering, conference meeting of some of the leaders in high tech, in AI, people who are really figuring out how these technologies can come to solve some of the world's greatest problems. I was way out of my depths. It was a really beautiful, kind of intimate, aspirational group of some of the top thinkers in this space. And they asked me to come and share a little bit from an ethical and faith standpoint what I saw, what I was concerned about, what I wanted them to be thinking about as they continue with the rapid pace of this advancement. And I'll tell you at the beginning of my talk what my takeaway was at the end, which is I was in a room full of brilliant people who are trying to figure out how to make machines more human, and I'm trying to figure out how to make humans more human, which is really what I think my job is and what the work of our time is. Now, while there, in the midst of these incredible conversations about how air quality in India can be transformed by the latest technologies, I happened to watch a talk that Yuval Noah Harari had given just a couple weeks earlier at another conference in Japan, in which he was talking about the danger of AI and intimacy. And so I'm going to read you a short piece of what he had to offer. I don't know if anyone has caught this speech yet. But I really believe that Yuval Noah Harari is one of the most brilliant and provocative thinkers of our time, and I take him very seriously, and this is what he says. AI can replicate intimacy. The same way that it mastered language and attention, the next frontier is intimacy. And this is so much more powerful than attention. If you want to change someone's views on politics or politics, intimacy is the most powerful tool to do so. A good friend can change your views in a way that no number of articles could do. What happens when a new generation grows up and develops intimate relationships with AIs? The potential danger is enormous. People will become attached to fake people. And in the process, they will lose the ability to create intimacy with real human beings who are much more problematic. Because all AI wants is to be your friend. Its greatest advantage is that it has no feelings on its own. AI can never get upset. It can never get tired. It can never get angry. It can focus on you 100%. And it can understand exactly how you feel, which can create a fake sense of intimacy. You try to establish a relationship with a real person afterwards, and you'll see how far the gap is in between those two experiences. I want to put this out there as something that I am deeply concerned about. And I would say before the conference that I was just at, I fell somewhere on the range from pull the plug and yank the plug for all of these future technologies. But now my feelings are a little bit more complicated now, having seen a little bit more of what can be done. But in particular, when it comes to relationships and thinking about intimacy, that description of a kind of partnership, which is in our immediate future, if not for you, then certainly for your kids and mine, is real and is something that we need to think about. And I believe we need to get very clear on what we actually mean by intimacy, by relationship, and by friendship. So I'm going to pass out this Okay, it's a very large source sheet. If you're planning on staying for the night, or if any of the teachers duck out and they need someone to step in, we got a lot here that we're not going to do in this session. But I have spent a lot of time thinking about intimacy and relationship, in part because as a pulpit rabbi, one of the great blessings of what we get to do is we get to help usher people through the most profound and hardest and most wondrous moments of their lives. And sometimes those include partnership moments. We get to stand beneath the chuppah. We get to help prepare people for that moment. But I also have spent now many years thinking and writing about loneliness. And in writing about loneliness, there's one obvious starting point, which is the text that's at the top of the first page, where we learn in Bereshit chapter 2, verse 1, Vayomer Hashem Elohim lo tov hiyot adam levado selo ezer kenegdo. God says it's not good for the human Adam to be alone, so I will make an ezer kenegdo for him, a fitting counterpart for him, or as it's often translated in our chumashim rather unhelpfully, a helpmate for him. I'll make a helpmate for Adam. And this, of course, sparks the creation of Chava, of Eve. And it's a strange way to use language to describe what the Torah is actually expressing happens here. That phrase of ezer kenegdo, a helpmate, someone to help him, opposite him. Rashi, I just want us to look at for a quick moment. Rashi says, literally kenegdo, opposite, opposed to him. If he's worthy, she will be a help to him. If he is unworthy, she shall be opposed to him to fight him. Okay? So Rashi is looking at his worth here. I will tell you that many of the rabbis, including the text that Rashi draws this from, looks at her worth, if she's an unworthy partner or if she is a worthy partner. But there's something really interesting about the idea that we can have a partner, and the partner can either be a worthy partner or not a worthy partner. And there's a famous story that I suspect many of you know, which we're not going to go into in this moment, but it is here starting on page 2 from Masechet Ta'anit, 23a. It's actually an incredible story that we shouldn't take for granted because it's got magic in it. So we hear about this. It's one of those stories that we like to tell kids. The story of Choni HaMe'agel, the guy who creates a circle and stands in it and demands of God that the rain comes, and the rain comes. But right after that story happens, there's a very famous passage in which Choni sees an elder who is on the road and who's planting a tree. And very famously, Choni says to the guy, "What are you doing? You know, it's going to take you how long for that tree to bear fruit?" And he says 70 years, and he laughs at him. You know, "You're a joke. You're not going to be alive in 70 years. And then the man famously says to him, "Well, I inherited a world filled with trees that had been planted for me by my ancestors, and so too I plant for my descendants." And at that moment, there's this Rip Van Winkle twist in the story where Choni falls asleep into this really deep sleep, supported by the natural world, because mountains grow like all around him, so nobody can see him, and he sleeps for 70 years. And if you recall from the story, Choni, who was kind of this strange, mysterious character in our tradition, he wakes up and he starts to realize what happened to him, that he's been asleep, like he missed the whole, as Dr. King would say, he slept through the revolution. And he starts to put the pieces back together of where his life is, and basically realizes that nobody knows him anymore. And he has this experience that's kind of the inverse of the experience that Moses has in Rabbi Akiva's Beit Midrash. Because remember, when Moses goes into Rabbi Akiva's Beit Midrash, he's like, "What are these Jews talking about? This is not the Torah I wrote." And then he hears them say, "This is Torah given to Moshe by God at Sinai." And Moses, do you remember how it ends? He feels very heartened by it. Like, "I don't understand what you guys are doing, but I love that it's in the spirit of what I shared with you." It's kind of a beautiful grandparent or great-great-grandparent moment or something. But Choni's the opposite. He goes into the Beit Midrash and he hears them. He sees that his own teachings still have an impact on this world, but it's not good enough for him because he's not the one getting credit. And so he says basically, like, who am I? Who knows me anymore? What's my life even worth? And he ends up basically saying, oh, Hevruta, oh, mituta. Like, if there's nobody for me to even be in relationship with anymore, what's even the point of my life? And he dies. That's how the story ends. It's like, if I don't have anyone with whom I can build a kind of thickness, a kind of continuity, a relational continuity, what's even the point of being alive? And so I want for us to start this exploration thinking about the warning from Yuval Noah Harari. There is this very human need for partnership, for intimacy, for relationship. Hearing that God says the first thing that's not good in the Torah is really being alone. There can be good relationships and there can be bad relationships, unworthy relationships, says Rashi. And then Choni basically saying, like, without it, I'm done. There's really no point to my life at all. And with that as our kind of backdrop, now I want for us to dive into two texts that I think are going to show us or create for us a bit of a thicker foundation for a conversation around what relationships really are and what they need to be for them to be worthy. And then you can make an assessment if you want AI to be your best friend or not afterwards, whatever. Okay. So, are you with me? We ready? Okay, good. Okay, so first I want to take a look at the text that I imagine is the more well-known of the two that we're going to look at. And that is because it comes from Bava Metzia 84a. And there's way too much text here on this page, so I'm going to ask you to skip down to, let's see, where are we? Okay. One day, Rabbi Yochanan was bathing in the Jordan. We're about 8 lines from the bottom on page 3. Okay. So, out of curiosity, how many people know the love story of Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan? Okay, a bunch of people know this story. It's an incredible tale. We're going to do it fairly quickly, and because some of you know it, but I'll assume that not everybody does. So, essentially, Rabbi Yochanan, the rabbis are in the midst of telling us how beautiful he was. He was a very attractive man, Rabbi Yochanan. So much so that they used to put him in front of the mikveh so that when the women would come out of the mikveh and they would see him, so they would get aroused, so they would go home and sleep with their ugly husbands so that the Jewish people could perpetuate in the world. Like, that's how handsome this guy was. So anyway, one day Rabbi Yochanan was bathing in the Jordan and Reish Lakish saw him, and this is our first time meeting Reish Lakish, but it seems clear from the text that Reish Lakish, who is a bandit and a thief and a rapist, sees the beautiful Rabbi Yochanan and desires him and pursues him in the water. And when that happens, Reish Lakish, they fight, and Rabbi Yochanan resists him and essentially convinces him through this wrestling match that they have, you're really strong. Imagine if you used your strength not to harm people through acts of violence like this, but if you used your strength for Torah. Now, that is like an invitation. I don't know why it worked, but Reish Lakish agrees, and he goes through this total transformation. He is the ultimate Baal Tshuva. He comes into the Beit Midrash. He doesn't know anything. He starts to learn from scratch. And Rabbi Yochanan is his teacher and then becomes his Hevruta. Okay? And Rabbi Yochanan's the greatest scholar of his time, and Reish Lakish matches him point for point. They're both incredibly brilliant. They see each other fully. In fact, they are so deeply in love with each other that Rabbi Yochanan gives Reish Lakish his sister to marry. They look alike. I mean, there's a lot going on here, folks. So that's this family. You think your family's got trouble. So anyway, the main drama of this sugya, though, is a very subtle drama in which one day these two men are in the Beit Midrash. They're in the study hall. And they get into an argument, like they did about literally everything, about a very particular halachic point. So you can see it. It's about, eight lines down on page 4. Thank you, Michael. Okay. So one day, the sages of the study hall were engaging in a dispute concerning the following Breita with regards to the sword, the knife, and the dagger, the spear, the hand sickle, and the harvest sickle. From when do they become susceptible to ritual impurity? At what point can they become impure? When they're still in the manufacturing process, they cannot become impure, but at a certain point, they're developed enough that they can be. And the Breita answers, well, from the time that they're done being manufactured. The rabbis then say, and when is the completion of the manufacturing? And Rabbi Yochanan says, when you fire the item in the furnace. But Reish Lakish says, when you scour them in water, which is a little bit later in the process, because first you have to burn it in the furnace, and then you dip it in the water to cool it afterwards. Okay, that's it, folks. That's it. Like, this tiny dispute ends up breaking everything in the perfect harmony of this totally transformed man and the deepest love and Hevruta that fueled the Beit Midrash, because the two of them disagree, and they disagree fundamentally, which sparks Rabbi Yochanan turning to Reish Lakish, his best friend, the love of his life. And he says, a bandit knows about his banditry. That's bad. That's really bad. Now, you may have noticed, I know I read them quickly, that all of the objects that they were arguing about the ritual impurity of could be used as weapons. And who knows weapons? A guy who used to be a thief, a rapist, a bandit. And all of a sudden, in one fell swoop, Rabbi Yochanan says to him, you'll never be more than you once were at your worst. And he just breaks him. It's like the way that when you really love someone, you know exactly how to destroy them, right? And he just destroys him. And so basically, Reish Lakish says, like, why did I even go on this whole journey? You know, I was a leader of bandits. Like, why come to be a leader in the Beit Midrash? I should have never left, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a really tragic end, because Reish Lakish, without Rabbi Yochanan's love, this insult, like, not only hurts his spirit, but it breaks his body. And he gets really, really sick. So sick that his wife, the sister of Rabbi Yochanan, the wife comes and begs Rabbi Yochanan, saying, hey, guys, figure it out. My husband's going to die over this fight. And Rabbi Yochanan will not relent, and Reish Lakish dies. It's horrible. It's a really devastating story. And after the death of his best friend, he can't function anymore. He totally falls apart too. Like, it ruined both of them forever. The rabbis get really worried about Rabbi Yochanan. He lost his best friend and his Hevruta, and he can't really function at all. And so what they do is they send this guy, this poor guy, Elazar ben Padat, who's going to go, by the way, can anyone identify a particular poignancy in Rabbi Yochanan being begged by his sister to help heal Reish Lakish and him declining? If you scan your Rabbi Yochanan story brain. What? It seems like Rabbi Yochanan is the one who made the shidduch with Reish Lakish in the first place, but Rabbi Yochanan is the healer. Rabbi Yochanan, he's not only gorgeous, he's also a healer. And he's the one who in Brachot goes to the bedside of all the sick rabbis, and he lifts out his hand and he brings them up. He gives them some kind of healing of body and or spirit. He's the healer, and he's the one who will not grant healing to his own best friend, love of his life, Reish Lakish. It's really devastating. So poor Elazar ben Padat is sent to go and sit with Rabbi Yochanan. He won't teach Torah anymore. He won't get out of bed. He won't do anything. And so they send this poor guy, And Elazar ben Padat's a really good student of Torah, but he goes and he basically sits, and every time Rabbi Yochanan says something, he totally agrees with him. You're so brilliant. You're the greatest of your generation, blah, blah, blah. And Rabbi Yochanan's going out of his mind until he finally says, like, do you think that's going to help me? Do you think you're going to take the place of Reish Lakish? Don't you understand? Every time I spoke, 24 times Reish Lakish would challenge me. And I would have to respond back, and then he would respond, and we would dance. We would dance together. And sometimes I would win, and sometimes he would win, but we were both better off for it. I don't want a relationship with a nobody who's just going to tell me how great I am all the time. I want a relationship with someone who's going to help me think more deeply, challenge me to be a better version of myself. And you know, that's the tragedy here. I mean, the tragedy of the story is literally without that kind of fuel in their heart, both men die. Like, do you see this, how high the stakes are in these rabbinic stories? Choni, o Hevruta, o mituta. If I can't have recognition, partnership, I want to be known in this world. If I can't be known in this world, I may as well die. Reish Lakish dying from this, Rabbi Yochanan dying from this. And what they're saying is, like, we need more. I need more than just someone else around me. I need to be known by that person, and I need to be known in a way that helps me know myself. It's like a different standard, right? Now, I want to put one more text on the table, and then I want to discuss all of these things together. And this text, I'm going to guess that Rabbi Sean Fieldsmeyer and Rabbi Artson have seen, but I don't know. It's a little bit less known. From Moed Katan. It's on the first page. So holding all of these pieces together, I want to ask us to dive into a different kind of story, but I think you'll see why it comes. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says to his son, there are two people there, Rabbi Yonatan ben Asmai and Rabbi Yehuda, son of converts. And these men are noble. They are wise and they're learned individuals. So go before them and get a blessing from them. So he's sending his son. By the way, his son is Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon. He's kind of like a gruff, nasty guy. Like, his father is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. His son is Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon. Like, he's not of the same stock of his father. Anyway, his father sends him out and says, you have to go and visit these two rabbis and ask them for a blessing. So he goes, the son goes, and he finds these two rabbis, and they're deep in discussion, and they're talking about apparent contradictions between two psukim, and we don't have time. I'm not going to go into why it's relevant, though it is. Though it is interesting. And then basically at some point, they're in the midst of this halachic device. They're doing Hevruta, right? They're doing what Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan were doing. And then at some point, they see Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's son. And they say to him, what brings you here? Or, what do you want here? We don't know the tone. And he says to them, well, my Abba told me that I should come here so that you would give me a blessing. And listen to how these two guys respond. They say to him, may it be God's will that you should sow and not reap, that you should bring in and not take out, that you should take out and not bring in, that your house should be destroyed and your lodging place should be inhabited, that your table should become confused, and that you should not see the new year. Okay. That is not what he went there looking for. So he goes back to his father and he says, not even did they not bless me, but they even caused me pain. Here I want to just pause for a moment and ask you what you heard in the words that those rabbis said to Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon, the son of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. What do you hear? It's a riddle. Let's just go with the pshat. What's the obvious read? I hear whispering Jews, but not loud Jews. Any ideas? Okay, maybe they're trying to get him to be more humble. They're blessing him with humility. Maybe everything shouldn't go your way, son of a great rabbi. Maybe you should have to have some hard knocks, right? Okay. What'd you say? Did you have one? Okay. Maybe you should let go of expectations and learn how to live in this world, right? Does it seem like a blessing to us? It seems like these seem like multiple curses, right? I mean, on the surface level, these seem like multiple curses. You can understand why the son goes home and tells the father that he did not get what he came for. Irene. Okay, that was great, and I can't repeat all of that. I won't get it all right, but it's. I think that on the most basic level, it does seem complex. On the face of it, it seems clearly insulting and kind of cruel, but it's also complicated. And it seems like there's a riddle here, and it's not one that Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Shimon can figure out. And so he goes home and he says to his father, "Not only did they not bless me, but they even hurt me with words." And they say, "Well, what exactly did they say?" Just think of this parenting move for a moment. Like your kid comes home and is crying and they were really awful to me. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, okay, hold on, take a breath. Tell me exactly word for word what happened. And he goes through the whole thing. He tells them. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, yeah, but these are all blessings. You heard them as curses, but they're all blessings. They were just uttered in a cryptic manner, says Steinsaltz. And so let me break it down for you. And basically what's about to happen now, I'm not sure if this is good parenting or not. I would ask Deborah, Musher. But like, the father's now going to say to the son, I'm now going to take you back on a journey through everything that you just shared with me and show you why you read it wrong. And actually, these guys who you think were being cruel were actually blessing you. And he goes through, when they said you should sow and not reap, what they meant is that you should have lots of children and they shouldn't die. That's actually a great blessing. Their statement that you should bring in and not take out means that you should bring in brides for all of your sons, and your sons should not die. Again, a good thing, which would cause their wives to leave. So basically, for each one of these things, your house should be destroyed and your lodging place inhabited. This should be interpreted allegorically as this world is like your lodging place and the world to come is your house. That means that's what they meant when they said that your house should be destroyed, meaning the world to come is less important than this world. You should have a table full of noise and celebration, confused with all the grandchildren seated at your table, etc., etc. So I want to ask you this. What does Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai do here that teaches us something about relationships, about intimacy, about knowing and being known by another? What does he add to the discourse that we're engaging here? Okay, great. So first of all, that's really interesting because I was talking about the relationship between the father and the son, and you're actually reading also the relationship between the father and the other rabbis. Now, remember, these two guys were chosen by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai to be the ones who were going to give blessings to his son. Of course, there's a backstory to why these two rabbis are the ones who were chosen. It's nobody's 100% certain. They're very, they appear, they're not famous rabbis, Rabbi Yonatan ben Asmai and Rabbi Yehuda, but there is a strong sense that Rabbi Yehuda is the rabbi that whispered about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son violating precepts of the law, which led to them needing to hide in a cave for 13 years. So in other words, if that's true, this convert actually it seems like, there's something about them being converts, which I want to talk about in a moment, but in Masechet Shabbat, the same name, Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim, Rabbi Yehuda, the convert, is the one who reports on Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that he made these remarks against Rome, which led to his exile. If that's true, then when the rabbi sends his son to that place to get blessing, something very holy is happening. Any ideas? You're gonna have to speak up here. What is happening if this guy, Rabbi Yehuda, is actually the Rabbi Yehuda that was responsible for these two rabbis having to dwell in a cave? Remember, they dug holes in the sand and they would go in up to their neck and they come out only to eat. So what does it mean if the person who sent them into that prison is the person who now that they're out is going to be the one who blesses his son? Yeah. That's great. There was also a blessing for them in that cave, right? Because like I think all children stop listening, all parents bear with me for a minute. You know how you would do anything in the world for like 15 minutes with one of your kids? Like anything. I mean, you would like fly across the world and anything in the world for 15 minutes. I mean, these guys got 13 years together, right? They got to know each other. I mean, by the way, that goes to the question of, is it good parenting or bad parenting? Like, he really knows his son. And so he knows that he can push him in this way. His son's going to tell him, I had a horrible day out with at school with these other rabbis. And the dad is like, listen, I know you and I know that I can push you to read it a little bit differently. Okay. So I believe that some kind of tikkun is happening. Oh, Gwen, say it. Okay, so Gwen believes that some kind of tikkun is happening here. So that in a way, these rabbis, if this is true, if it is actually the same rabbi who actually turned them in, that he's saying, look, we don't judge people forever based on their worst behavior. This is a theme we've already heard in this shiur. Exactly. We allow people to grow and to develop and to change, and these guys also have Torah in them, and we have to forgive them. We have to allow them to be something more. So now go, and this will be the symbol to them of us embracing them and healing being possible, except that it doesn't work easily because what comes back seems like a curse to all of us, and also to Rabbi Eliezer, and only once Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai does the kind of autopsy on the curse does it then seem like a blessing. There's also something about them being converts, even if it's not the same person who told the Romans about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Any thought about that? Like, what's the significance that the rabbis that the son is going to get the blessing from are children of converts? Who cares? You're not even supposed to talk about if somebody is descended from converts. Once they go through the conversion process, they are also they're Ben Avram Basara. They're the same part of the same chain of tradition. So why might it matter? Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, there's definitely some life lessons that he's trying to teach his kid here, and maybe he even gets to teach more than he expected, right? Yeah.
now
Okay, that's so great. Thank you. I want to just draw the thread out now because we've gone on kind of a complex journey here. So first we have Yuval Noah Harari warning us about falling in love with AI because guess what? Of course they're going to be better than any actual human you'll fall in love with because they're only there to serve you and they have no needs of their own. And then we start to learn that maybe in real relationship, having to pay attention to other people's needs might actually be part of the essence of relationship. If you consider the case of Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, we learn that not being known at all in the world is fundamentally not good from a theological perspective. Lo tov heyot adam levado. It's not good. And we also learn that human beings can't sustain themselves if they're not known in the world, but that not every relationship counts as a life-sustaining relationship. So the relationships in which Elazar ben Padat is giving Rabbi Yochanan exactly and precisely what he thinks that great rabbi needs, but he's getting it wrong, gives him no fulfillment and leads him only to literally desire death. And then we have this model of a father and son partnership in which a child has an experience in the world, is certain that he understands that experience because it's obvious what it is. And then somebody who loves him deeply and knows him well because they lived in a cave together, for way too long, can say to him, I just need to challenge your assumptions here. Because what you're reading about this story is not what actually happened. Now, if anyone's ever been hurt by a friend, and then you go tell a loved one, like this, they really hurt me, and your family's like, no, you're reading it wrong, that doesn't feel good, right? It takes a lot of love to offer the message that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai offers here in order to be able to say, like, I see you and the pain that you're in, and I want to help expand your sight of vision here. I want to see you to see as a much bigger field before you of possibility. So I want to bring us to what my beloved John O'Donohue from this beautiful book on Amkara that where he talks about this tradition, this Celtic tradition of soul love. And I think we have, what's our time? What? Oh, great. Okay. I'm going to give you John O'Donohue and then we're going to talk. So what he says is the following. He says, so if you're lucky in your life, you might find an anamkara, a soul friend. This is a person who acts as a teacher or a companion or a spiritual guide. Initially, it was referring to someone to whom you confessed, someone to whom you were willing to share the hidden intimacies of your life. With the anamkara, you can share your innermost self, your mind, your heart. This friendship itself becomes an act of recognition and also of belonging. And I just want you to hear as I'm reading some of these words to see if this resonates with your experience. In this love, you are understood as you are without mask, without pretension. The superficial and functional lies and half-truths of social acquaintance fall away, and you can be as you truly are. Love allows understanding to dawn, precious understanding. Where you are understood, you are at home. That understanding is what nourishes belonging. Now go to the next page for a moment. I don't know if it's actually, I have different pagination. When you're able to engage in this kind of depth of connection, in which we are able to unmask ourselves and see another fully and let another see us fully, the heart learns a new art of feeling. Such friendship is neither cerebral nor abstract. This is not merely a metaphor or an idea. This is a soul bond that existed as a recognized and admired social construct in certain cultures. It altered the meaning of identity and perception. When your affection is kindled, the world of your intellect takes on a new tenderness and compassion. You look and see and understand differently. And if anyone here has ever been in love, you really understand this, right? How the colors change. The whole world looks more vivid, right? Things sound differently. You smell things differently. I did this This was this morning. I just realized. This morning, I did an incense ceremony with the Grand Master of Japan, with 8 people in this room, and he, for 900 years, his family has been the protector of this ancient bark from a tree, and they're terrified because if there's a fire, that's their Torah scroll. That's the thing that somebody needs to go in and save. And so we did this ceremony so that he could ask me, how do Jews hold something so sacred and so ancient when the world seems to be going at a totally different pace and in a different direction? And so we did 3 different incense scents from 3 different barks. And it's so meticulous and it's so slow. And I'm like, come on, I gotta go. I gotta pack before I get to the plane, before I get to the tikkun. But it's so slow and intentional and thoughtful. And then he passes it around, and you're supposed to pick it up with your right hand and turn it twice, and then hold it at the bottom with your left hand. And you just breathe in the scent of a 900-year-old tree bark. And it is transformative. You feel so close to nature, like you're breathing a tree. And I mean, it was shaking. My whole body was shaking from this experience. And that, John O'Donohue is saying, is also the experience of being loved, of being in love, of knowing that someone in the world, whether it's a partner or a dear beloved friend or a kid or a grandma, someone in the world just sees you with all the darkness and all the bruises and all the ugliness, and they're not running away. That also creates this kind of full body wakefulness in which we see the world through eyes of tenderness and compassion because we feel seen through eyes of tenderness and compassion. Initially, this can be disruptive and awkward, but gradually it refines your sensibility and transforms your way of being in the world. A friend is a loved one who awakens your life in order to free the wild possibilities within you. This person is the truest mirror or reflection to your soul. I want to offer that all of this journey of text and story and experience is a refutation in some way to where we started with Rashi's read on it's not good for a person to be alone. Well, if she merits, then yes, but if she doesn't merit, then no. Because I believe that in some way our tradition has set up, even through translating Ezer Kenegdo as a helpmate, has set up a dynamic that is so missing the mark, so terribly missing the mark. Because what we want is not somebody who's going to Elazar ben Padat us, right? Who's just there to be our helpmate, to do for us what the animals couldn't do for Adam, right? Even though, according to the rabbis in the Gemara that I read today, the animals did a lot for Adam. It's just a Talmud. But then, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It's really gnarly stuff. I don't know. Yeah. They're it's not in the Shalhevet curriculum, but it like in the advanced Gemara track, you might come across this. So, but the point is that the Ezer Kenegdo, I don't think was ever intended to be the one who was there just to fulfill the need of the other, but instead to in some way be a kind of two-way mirror, like to see so that they could also be seen, because giving and receiving love is essential, and it helps us experience the world differently, and it awakens us to the possibilities within ourselves and also within each other. And as Martin Buber says, the I only truly becomes truly itself in relation to the thou. If you don't have that level of grandness in relationship, then you yourself can't be great, right? So I want to ask you in our last couple of minutes to reflect on this idea of real Hevruta in the world. Is this attainable? Is it something you have touched in your life? Have you had a moment where another can see your nikuda pnimit, can see your inner self, and you feeling that scene respond differently and love differently and share differently and speak and write and create more brilliantly as a result of it? Where does this land for you? Because I'll tell you that on this night of preparation for revelation, if part of what we can do is awaken ourselves to realize those revelations that have happened within us, but we kind of have quashed or gotten busy and papered over, that would be a really beautiful way to celebrate this night. So tell me, what do you think? Yes.
I read the Rashi very different. And I read it the same as the curse in the last piece. And they all say the same thing to me, that Eve was brought forward to Adam not to say, oh, she's good, but you get rid of her, but to be a counterpoint. And that if she's not worthy, and it's my own reading of it, so it could be totally wrong, but that if she wasn't worthy, that she's going to be opposed to him. And to me, it wasn't, oh, they're going to fight, but she'll push him. He'll push her. And at the end, this curse that was given turns out to be all this good stuff. You know, there's this point and counterpoint of a relationship that throughout all of them was, I don't know, I immediately my brain went there. So I thought it was quite lovely, the flow through, but maybe I was wrong the whole time.
I don't know that you're wrong. I mean, I love the idea that only positive, that even Rashi is suggesting that the purpose of this Ezer Kenegdo is actually to do this hard work of like deeply investing and engaging in that relationship and seeing him fully so that he can be fully seen in the world. Yeah. I'll tell you, there's a midrash that I talk about all the time, and I wrote about it in my book, and it's that beautiful midrash from the end of the sixth day of creation, right before the first Shabbat. But it's the first day of Adam and Eve's life. So they're seeing darkness for the first time. And many of you have heard me share this many times, but the sun starts to go down. And I imagine at first it's really beautiful, and then it starts to get really scary. And when it gets scary, Adam starts to cry. And then he starts to scream and wail. And he's utterly terrified. And he does the two things that we do when the darkness comes, which is, one, he catastrophizes. He says, like, this, you know, the world's going to go back to tohu vavohu. It's going to, like, the whole world is over. I'm a catastrophizer. The whole world is over. We'll never have light again. And he blames himself. He says, like, this is my fault. What did I do? What did I do wrong? I must have brought this on somehow. And so he does those two things. And then Eve just walks over to him and says, it says in the Midrash, she sits keneged lo, across from him. It's the same exact language. And do you remember what she does? So, what? She just sits with him and just cries with him and holds him, and they just cry together throughout the night. And then the dawn comes up, right? And so there is this, so I feel like that's more true than even this Rashi is to what an Ezer Kenegdo is. Like, she's opposite him. She's able to see him in his fear. And she never says to him, you know, don't be crazy. Of course the whole world's not going back to null and void. Or, yeah, this is your fault. Why did you do that? Like, no, all that stuff with the animals. No, she doesn't do that. Instead, no, what she does is she just cries with him because she doesn't know. It could be that they'll never be mourning again, and it could be that it is his fault. It doesn't matter. She's just going to do what she can do, which is sit across from him and just witness his pain. There's a beautiful Parker Palmer, which I thought I brought, but I think I did not, about how the greatest human urge. I might have it right here. It's so good. Here's the deal, he says. The human soul does not want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, to be seen, heard, companioned, exactly as it is. When we make that kind of deep bow to the soul of a suffering person, our respect reinforces the soul's healing resources, the only resources that can help the sufferer make it through. So this is like, these are both models of the same kind of love. One, I bow to the brokenness in your soul. I see you fully. I see your pain, and I'm not running away, even though, believe me, I'm scared. And two, this is not the best of you. You running away from those rabbis and telling everyone how they cursed you, there's something else for you to learn here. And maybe Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai doesn't even know the truth of what they meant. Or maybe he knows that they hate him. We don't know. But he's not concerned about those other two rabbis. He's concerned about the one rabbi he loves, his son. And so he says, look, you can choose to walk through the world seeing everything as a curse, or you can choose to see the blessings. Let me teach you how to find the blessings. Let me teach you how even from the people that have caused us pain, we can still find blessings. And that is a really powerful model of love, I think. Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Yes, amen to that. I want to challenge one piece of it, which is these rabbis, they died when they didn't have the Hevruta that they needed. But there's this beautiful teaching that I always think about. That, our rabbis are so deeply concerned with business practices, like having just business practices. And so measuring your scales first thing in the morning and making sure that the gauge is set properly. Your entire integrity as a human being depends on your scales being honest. Because if you don't take the time to do that and zero out your scales, then you're overcharging people throughout the day, and you can never go back and repay that. And so if you have a barrel of coffee beans, and you know what one coffee bean weighs, you put it on the scale, and the way that you zero out your scale is with the weight of one bean. But then the rabbis ask, so what happens to that bean afterwards? When you then roll up the wall and open the shop and start selling, you can't just throw that bean back into the bucket, because that bean holds your entire integrity as a human being. That being, even though you don't need it anymore, will forever be transformed in its essence by the fact that at one moment in time, that morning at 6 a.m., that being meant absolutely everything in the world. And I think that love is like that too. And I think that real friendship is like that too. And I think that that's how sometimes, even after our loved ones die, we can still hold the sense of being loved because we were loved once. And so on one hand, Rabbi Yochanan couldn't. He could. I don't know why. These guys had they had so much sophistication, intellectual sophistication, and they had this kind of limitation where they just couldn't break through here. Why could this healer not heal this one person whom he loved more than anyone in the world? I think they were wrong. I mean, I think that you can survive. I think you can survive that because you're never the same again once you've been loved like that. I'm feeling the urge to do an Esther Perel exercise here for one moment, so forgive me, but I'm just going to ask you to close your eyes for a moment. Let's just try this. And I want to ask you if you feel that you have ever in your life had that kind of love, and I don't mean romantic partner, marriage partner. I don't mean that. I mean, if you have been seen in this world, if you have seen another in this world, if you resonate to the language of the Anam Kara, that this is a kind of depth of soul connection, I just want to ask if you'll raise your hand where you are, if you've had that. And what a blessing. And for those who didn't raise your hands, you can put your hands down now. For those who didn't raise your hands, I bless you that you find that. I bless you that in this world of so much violence and so much hatred and so much dehumanization, that we're able to make humans more human. That we're able to actually do the most human thing of all, which is to love and be loved. And that requires a certain measure of vulnerability, a certain measure of challenge. It's not being passive. Love is not passive. It means taking risks. It means being willing to see the world through someone else's eyes, and also not stopping there, but trying to help them see the world through even bigger and more beautiful eyes. I hope that we can do that, because I think that what Parker Palmer wrote what John O'Donohue is right about this. When we're able to do that, something fundamentally changes in us, which changes the way we walk through the world. And I think that each of us needs to walk through the world with more tenderness and compassion right now. As the world gets harder, we need to get softer. And if we all put the highest virtue on that kind of love, we could create circles of tenderness and care. And you can't tell me that won't have an effect in the world. In the meantime, amen to your point about community. And as each of us searches for our anamkara, for our friend or loved one or parent or child or sibling or something, we can find pieces of that with each other. And so amen to coming together tonight and again after this. And I hope you all have a beautiful and meaningful Shavuot. Chag Sameach.
Yasher Koach, Rabbi Brous. Just going to give folks a sense of what's on the schedule. You ended exactly on time. Kol hakavod. At 10:30, in 15 minutes, we have 4 more opportunities for learning. Right here in this room with Rabbi Artson, Living, Learning, Becoming Together in Edelson Hall is the Learn from Hevruta, Art as a Bridge to Healing. Ice cream making that Rabbi Schatz talked about earlier, that's in Hirsch Hall, and the Beit Midrash track continues in Pilch. That's in 15 minutes. Chag Sameach. Hey.
For folks who are still here, I have one more announcement that I want to share really quickly before we leave the room. I think that before Yontif, some people heard about what happened in Boulder, Colorado. Sorry, folks. I should have said this before we broke. But I know very little of what happened in Boulder, but I understand that there was a kind of firebomb attack on a group of people who were marking the passage of time with the hostages still in Gaza, and many people were injured, and some very severely, including one Holocaust survivor I heard. I want to share that that Mayor Bass, Jacqueline Hamilton, is here and works with Mayor Bass, and shared that she is deeply sending her blessings and prayers for healing to our Jewish community, and she will be gathering with Jewish leaders on the other side of Yontif so that we can come together and think about how we can make truly a safe environment for not only for our Jewish community but for all of us. And so we're really grateful for her support, especially in this time, and really praying for everybody's healing, refuah shlema, and for safety and for peace. Thank you.
You've been listening to another in our series of podcasts from Temple Beth Am, a dynamic center for conservative Judaism in Los Angeles. If you enjoy these podcasts, we invite you to write a review on the Apple Podcast website or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information on Temple Beth Am, Los Angeles, please visit www.tbala.org.